The Blue Jackets and Jarmo Kekalainen have continued their horrible offseason by continuing to make baffling choices. We're going to talk about the fact that they have somehow decided to trade a first-round pick and a second-round pick for Ivan Provorov. That's coming up today on Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Jay Foster. I've got my host, Hayden Houseon here, and we're here to talk to you about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And I guess we're going to be talking a lot about that third one today. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms. We're over on YouTube, and we are on Sirius XM if you are a radio person, which is super exciting. Let's get into this. The Blue Jackets have. Here's the thing: the Blue Jackets were always going to make a stupid trade for a defenseman. I have made my peace with that. You know, they were always going to go out and get a defenseman that they thought was better than they were, and they were going to give up too much for him because they have this weird idea that what they need next year is a veteran defenseman. And like maybe they do, but why did it have to be this guy? If you have somehow missed all of the news that's happening today and have missed my like 700 angry tweets about it, Blue Jackets, as part of a three-way trade with the Los Angeles Kings and the Philadelphia Flyers, have traded the first-round pick that they got from LA at the trade deadline and a conditional 2024 or 2025 second-round pick for Ivan Provorov, a defenseman out of Philadelphia. Philadelphia made out like bandits in this trade. They got a first-round pick and a second-round pick from the Blue Jackets. They got a second-round pick from the Kings, and all they had to do was take on they got Cal Peterson's contract, which is rough, but I assume that they're going to be flipping hard. They picked up Sean Walker, who was kind of on the way out in LA, and a pretty solid-ish prospect in Helge Brands. So, and they didn't even have to retain salary on Provorov. LA is retaining the salary on Provorov. So, for Danny Briere's first big move as GM, he gets an A+ for this. Jarmo gets an F. And we're gonna kind of get into the trade a little bit more, but I wanna kind of start off with something that I try not to be too serious on this show because I feel like it's not fun when people are too serious. But I wanna preface the discussion about Provorov with this. I am a member of the LGBTQ community. I don't think that's a surprise. Watching the Blue Jackets trade for someone who says that it's in his beliefs to not support queer people, I think is abhorrent. And I know that we are going to get comments on YouTube. Oh, you're just being woke. Why are you anti-religious? Because he said he was against it because he's Russian Orthodox. He must be the only Russian Orthodox player in the entire NHL. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the trade in a vacuum. I don't like, and I'm going to let Hayden speak for a bit here because I've just gone on a little bit of a rant. Hayden, this trade, the Blue Jackets were always going to make us a trade like this. I don't, even if it wasn't a guy like Provorov, I don't think giving up this first round pick when you're in a rebuild is a good idea. Just straight up, I think they should have kept the pick. And I don't know what you think about that, but...
First of all, credit us. A couple weeks ago, we said the Blue Jackets should look at trading it for a defenseman. This is not what I meant for that. Because, just off the bat, everybody that's an NHL fan knows Ivan Provorov from the last couple of years. And not because he's been good. Because he deliberately decided not to wear a jersey on Pride Night. Pride Night's been something that, for the last 5 or 6 years, has been a very popular thing in the NHL. It's just showing support for a group of people that hasn't had a whole lot of support just in their lives. So I've never had a problem with that. I was shocked to see that certain players did have a problem with that. I guess Russian Orthodox is the one that I'm the least familiar with in terms of religions, or at least it's up there. But even someone like me who's a Christian, Jay, like I wouldn't have a problem putting on a jersey if it meant that someone else felt more welcomed in the arena. And it's not like they're wearing it every night. It's like you just wear it for one thing. So the fact that he looked at that and decided to have a heart of hate, first of all, stood out to me as this guy's a terrible guy, and I'm glad he's not on my team. And then I saw a text today, or not text, a notification up, he's on my team now. And I instantly was befuddled. I was like, why this guy? And then I saw I was like, okay, well, what did we give up for him? I'm like, oh, first round pick. Great. So we basically gave up Corpy and I keep forgetting
Gavrikov.
Vladislav Gavrikov. We gave up Vladdy and Corpy for this guy, basically. Is kind of like where I'm crunching the numbers on this. Like, I don't know, man. It seems like, could he be a good player? I don't know. I haven't really paid that much attention to what he's been doing. I know he's a big size center who's got he's shown some skill in terms of what he can do carrying the puck as a defenseman. But outside of that, he's never been a guy that's got me excited. He was second on the team on the Flyers this past year in points, played 82 games. He was second on his team in the defenseman category in points, beaten out only by Tony DeAngelo, who is also a notorious, these guys own
probably worse, I guess. They could have traded for him.
Really? I think they're both pretty bad people, but I didn't want either one of them. I guess from the hockey perspective, I think DeAngelo is a better player than Provorov. So like, I'm looking at this like we didn't even get a good player really for a first round pick. Like he didn't even lead the Flyers in points at his position last year. So like, and the Flyers were terrible. And he's gotten traded by a coach that used to coach our team. And I don't know. It's just like Jarmo loves making deals with the Flyers for some reason. He always does it. And usually he fleeces them, I feel like. But credit to this new GM, Daniel Briere, and Keith Jones, who's taken over as president of hockey operations, for getting a good deal done for their team. I just was checking out some of what, Philadelphia Flyers fans had been saying, and they're pretty excited about getting rid of Ivan Provorov. So that should show you how excited I am to be getting him, which is I'm not, because I don't think he's that good of a player, and I think he's a turd. So
yeah, let's get into the on ice stuff a little bit more, because I could go for literally hours about the off ice stuff, but let's talk about the on ice stuff. And is he actually going to be able to help this team? And my short answer is no, but I have kind of a longer answer to get into that. But first, I've got to tell you all about one of today's sponsors, which is FanDuel. So go ahead and make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs, because right now, new customers can get a no-sweat first bet of up to $2,500. That means that if you place your first bet and it doesn't win, if it's up to $2,500, you get that money back in bonus bets to try again, which is pretty sweet. I would love a no-sweat first trade, where if you decide that you regret your trade, that you can just try it again, but that's beside the point. There's no better place to bet for all of the playoff action, the NBA and the NHL, than America's #1 sportsbook. You can visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA, and also us, the Locked On Podcast Network. So let's look at a couple of stats. So you mentioned his points. Ivan Provorov, I believe, is a pretty offensive-minded defenseman. He has been playing on a very bad offensive team in the Flyers. I think that's fair to say. Looking at the stats this year, Travis Konechny led them in points this season with 61 points. So they were not an especially offensively gifted team this season. Arguably, neither were the Blue Jackets, but that's neither here nor there.
Then why are we trading for? Why are we looking at that team as that's the team we need to try to add pieces from?
And that's the thing that gets me. Like, okay, I don't necessarily disagree with the needing to add a defenseman. I don't know that you need a defenseman. looking at without giving up a defenseman as well, like looking at the Blue Jackets defense right now, they have like with the addition of Provorov, like that's like 9 guys that are going to be competing for 6 spots, and Werenski's going to get a spot. Provorov is going to get a spot. Branson is going to get a spot. Andrew Peak is probably going to get a spot. Adam Boquist is probably going to get a spot unless they move him for some reason. And then you've got, you've still got Jake Bean. You've got David Jiricek, who I think should be in the NHL this season. You've got Nick Blankenberg, who should definitely be in the NHL this season. And there's another guy that I'm forgetting, but like there's even that's 8 guys there that are competing for 6 spots. So like I don't know why you wouldn't try to move out a defenseman if you wanted to get bigger and tougher on defense. Like fine, whatever. I don't know why you wouldn't try to move out. Like I don't know. I like Adam Boquist. I think you could get a lot for Adam Boquist if you moved him out. It just I don't know. It feels like it's making a trade for trade's sake. And looking at the guys,
it does.
Like, we were talking about Matt Grzelcyk for Boston as a potential trade, and it's easy it's easy for us to sit here, I think, and say, why did you trade for this guy? Why didn't you trade for this guy? And I saw similar conversations when they traded Oliver Bjorkstrand last offseason. Was why didn't you trade Gus Nyquist? Why didn't you trade Jake Voracek? And like, I think it's really easy to sit here and say, well, you should trade that guy. Maybe they tried for Grzelcyk and couldn't get him. But I don't know, just. It doesn't make sense as a trade, and it makes me worried for what the team is going to look like next year, and it makes me worried about what other decisions that Jarmo Kekalainen is going to make, because in the last week he spoke like in the kind of the end of the season, what they call it, the locker exit interviews, that's what they're called. They spoke a lot about the team needing to find an identity and the team needing accountability, and they needed to change something in the room. And then you look at the players that they're bringing in and the coaches that they're bringing in, and it worries me. And one final comment I'll have before I'll turn it back over to Hayden for his thoughts on kind of Ivan Provorov as someone who is probably going to be on the second line, the second pairing for this team. Except I've lost my train of thought, so I guess we won't do that. But it's I don't know, it's so frustrating to watch because I want this team to be good so much, and it feels like they are not bored, but I feel like they're trying to hurry up the rebuild. It feels like they're impatient and they've kind of gone into win now mode, and it feels like, and this is kind of, I'm sure we had this conversation maybe like last episode or a couple episodes ago. I think that Jarmo Kekalainen thinks he has a different team than he actually has,
Mm-hmm.
And I think he values the wrong things. And we kind of saw that last season when he went out and got Eric Branson because he had this weird idea that the Blue Jackets were being bullied 2 seasons ago. And again, he's looked at this team and gone, you know what we need? We need a guy that had 27 points, was a minus 17, and a 42% share of the shot attempt on the ice at all situations. That is making $6.5 million. Now, in fairness, I believe LA is retaining 30% of his salary, so I think he's only making like just under
$4, just over $4, yeah,
for the Blue Jackets, and he's here for 2 seasons, which is
2 seasons too long.
It's not a lot, like it's not a super long time. It feels like I assumed that it was kind of a bridge to get the young guys to be kind of a little bit, get them some more kind of seasoning in the AHL. But then Jarmo Kekalainen is talking about how he's a good young defenseman that has a lot of good years ahead of him. And that worries me that he's going to try and extend them. So I don't know.
He's 26. We've seen him by now. We know who he is. He's a guy who clearly has an issue with something that I think should be worldwide accepted by now. And he's a big part of a movement that's kind of gone the other way for the LGBTQ community, and it's been unfortunate to see. But I don't want him in my locker room. I just told you last episode, Jay, like the Blue Jackets they're bringing in a lot of big personalities, and they brought in Babcock. He's one of the bigger personalities there is in the hockey world. And now you bring in this guy, like, I don't know, man. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Now, granted, I guess I don't know. It's a frustrating week for Blue Jackets fans, a whole lot of them, because a lot of people didn't want Babcock, but it's even more frustrating because nobody wanted this guy. Nobody is excited for Ivan Provorov, especially considering you gave up a first round for him. Like, if you wouldn't have given up a first round for him, if this would have been a guy that you just like signed for like, cheap, okay, fine. I believe in second chances, I guess, but like, no, this was a terrible trade. It's a guy in a locker room that, like I said, is just, he's not going to be a culture fit just because of just his stance on simple things, So it's frustrating. You're allowed to be frustrated. Blue Jackets fans, you should be frustrated right now because, this is exactly what you said, Jay. This is just Jarmo making a trade because, Jarmo needs to make a trade. And maybe we just need someone to walk into the room and just, Jarmo, can you just put the phone down? Like, you don't need to bring somebody in right now. Like, let's just see what we got first. It
feels like, and I've kind of seen this on Twitter a little bit, is Jarmo knows that he's in the hot seat. And I think this is a reaction to him. And we talked about it with the Babcock thing as well. I think he knows that this is kind of his last. If the Blue Jackets are a lottery team again next season, I don't know if Jarmo Kekalainen is the GM this time next year. And so I think he's making he's swinging big now in the hopes of maybe saving his job later. And I just think it's going to backfire on him.
This isn't a big swing to me. This is like a kind of like a half-efforted swing, kind of like a check swing that, turned into a bunt to the third baseman that he came up and just, smoked you out at first base. I'm talking because Jay just went to a baseball game. So he knows that now. He understands that reference now.
Maybe I'll just get into baseball instead of hockey. Like the Guardians.
Maybe that's your sport.
I don't know.
But
let's move on. Let's talk a little bit more about kind of the future. And because I've seen a couple of people that are in the CBJ media landscape, this is not the end of it. There are going to be more moves. And so let's kind of talk about that a little bit. But first, I want to talk to you about Birddogs because everything is terrible right now, except for the fact that I am wearing my Birddogs and it's 95 degrees outside and I am cool and comfortable. They look great. They fit great. They are the most comfortable pair of shorts that I have ever owned. And that's really exciting for me, a person that owns a lot of pairs of shorts. So they are, like I said, they're comfortable. They come in like really inclusive sizes. They've got a lot of different colors and styles. So, you're going to find something that you like on Birddogs. And I have been wearing them basically since I got to the States, and I don't plan to take them off until I have to go home again. So that's if you are interested in comfortable shorts, birddogs.com is the place to go. And if you go to birddogs.com/lockedonnhl, use promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and they're going to send you a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. Once again, that is birddogs.com/lockedonnhl for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Birddogs off, we promise you. Okay, let's talk about, like I said, the future. This is not the end of the offseason. I do think that there are definitely going to be more moves coming. I just don't know what those moves are. I'm kind of at this point in time bracing myself for him to trade for Jarmo Kekalainen to trade third overall to Calgary for Elias Lindholm, and that's going to be that. Like that's, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being fatalistic about this because they keep disappointing me. But like, where do you go from here as a team? You've got Provorov, you've got your new big beefy defenseman that in theory could score 10 to 15 goals this season.
He better because I have no reason to like him from what he did in Philadelphia.
Yeah, he's coming in here on bad terms already.
Yeah.
If he's good on the ice, then it still won't make me like him, but it will soften the blow of this trade. But I'm hearing people say the Blue Jackets are going to go and get another defenseman. I don't see how this works. Like they have so many defensemen, and going out and getting more defensemen, I feel like is just kind of kicking the can down the road here.
Yeah, I agree. You read off the list of defensemen, and it does sound not stacked, but it does seem like you got a lot of guys floating around there, and you just traded away your big piece, that your biggest card, at least. Like if you were going to make a huge splash via trade. It was going to be with one of your first-round picks, and ideally for a Blue Jackets fan, it would have been that second first-round pick, which is what they did. They got Provorov back, so it's like, okay, the big trade is kind of over. Unless you're right, like they trade the third overall. Jarmo loves trades, but I would be very upset if he traded away the third overall pick. I think there are some fantastic players in this draft. I mean, they're already talking about Fantilli now potentially falling. I don't think it will go that way. I really do think it will go, obviously, Bedard, Fantilli, and then probably Carlson. But anyway.
At this point, I don't know that I have the faith in Jarmo Kekalainen to draft Leo Carlson third overall. I am waiting for him to go fully off the board and take like David Reinbacher or someone at third, and then I really will just turn into the Joker. But
it's a different conversation for a different day. But like, even if he did draft like Michkov or something, I would be more content with that than I would him trading something like this for. I love Elias Lindholm. I've been big on him, but I would not give a third overall pick for him. I would not. So, yeah, I'm kind of disappointed right now. I think that's just straight up. I was really excited for the Babcock hire over the weekend, but this just left me completely in the dumps. And it's confusing to me, just even from a public relations standpoint. You knew you were going to get backlash from hiring Babcock, one, because he was a former Red Wings coach who Blue Jackets fans kind of don't like the Red Wings, and two, he has beef with players, which was, players that were well liked around the league, aka Mitchell Marner. And then you hire this guy. Like, it's just like, what are we doing? Like, it's just, are we trying to be the most unlikable team in the NHL? Like, because if so, we are on our way. But it's just, I want to like them,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just frustrating.
That's the thing, is it's so frustrating. I feel like the team has had really good vibes for the past couple of seasons, and then we talked about this. They're bringing back Babcock, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, the vibes got a little worse, and now they bring in this guy. The vibes are going to get a little bit worse for me specifically, and for other queer Blue Jackets fans, because there are a lot of us.
But I just think it bothers me that, like, put on the jersey, man. It's just for warm-ups. Like, it shouldn't. Like, it's just such a simple thing. Like, I really don't understand. Like, it's frustrating is what it is. This guy is frustrating me already. And I just know that he's probably going to go out there. He's probably going to, he came from the Flyers organization. So it's not like he's been, under a lot of pressure or played in a franchise that has high expectations. He played for literally a media company. That's who owns the Flyers. So put that in perspective. And then now he's going to come here and he's probably just going to do the same, like, half-efforted plays all over the place, and I'm going to hate him. Like, that's what's going to happen. So,
yeah, this is another case of, like, prove me wrong,
Yeah.
I still, it's really tough, and I've been doing a lot of thinking over the past kind of couple hours between this trade breaking and us recording this. So, like, we're recording at, like, what is it there? Like 4:45 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. So the trade only got broken, like, a couple hours ago. And so I've been doing a lot of thinking about, like, if he succeeds on the ice, does that make this trade better? And, like, yes, but it's not going to make me feel better as a person. So, it's really tough to kind of separate the off-ice stuff with the on-ice stuff. That being said,
like, if we win a cup and you see him rolling down the street with the cup above his head, you're going to be like, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's very much going to be I want to succeed in spite of this person.
Right, yeah. Pass the cup to somebody.
Yeah. I think that's what I keep coming back to, is that, like, you can be a bad person or you can be a bad hockey player. Like, pick a struggle. And he seems to have chosen both. And
both, yeah.
I think we'll have to talk to Rachel and Russ from Locked On Flyers. We'll get their opinion on Provorov. They're thrilled both with this trade, which, like, I would be thrilled with this trade if I was a Flyers fan.
Yeah, they got a
trading thing. Is it's not that it was. Sometimes trades are bad for everyone. This trade felt bad for specifically us. And I think even LA got out of it. Okay, like, they gave up a second-round pick, but they also got to take Cal Peterson's, like, $5.5 million cap hit off the books. They got Sean Walker's cap hit off the books. They're probably going to re-sign Vladislav Gavrikov. I think that's what bugs me, actually, is a lot of people are like, well, you traded Gavrikov for Provorov, and that's an upgrade. And I don't know, man. If I had the choice between having Vladislav Gavrikov, the first-round pick, or Ivan Provorov, I think of those three, I think I'd take Gavrikov. I really do.
Provorov is more of a he's more of a goal scorer from the blue line, which I think is always nice to have. But yeah, I just didn't want this guy. I mean, if he comes in and plays good hockey, I will feel better about it. But he's got to play really damn good hockey, and I'm still going to be pretty upset every time I see him on the ice because I'm like, why him? There were so many other better defensemen out there. And yes, Philadelphia Flyers fans, you should be happy because you're one less crappy person away from having a likable hockey team again.
Yeah.
Still got a lot to go, a lot of guys to get rid of, but
I do worry that this was karma for me laughing at them getting Tony DeAngelo after picking up John Tortorella, but so maybe I should stop being mean to other teams. That feels like what's happening here. But this is not going to be the last time we talk about.
How about this? I get a good spin zone for you, Jay. Let's say Blue Jackets, win a cup or whatever. Let's say they have some good playoff runs. Let's say they don't win a cup. They have a pretty much the exact same thing that Torts had. 6 years of just really competitive hockey. And at the end of it, it comes out that Ivan Provorov was the only player bullied, which we shouldn't bully anyone, but he was the only one bullied by Mike Babcock. Would you be okay with that? That was the one. He was the only, that was the guy that Mike Babcock got under.
That's the other thing
skin.
as well. I can't figure out and so, okay, here's the thing. I think homophobes should be bullied. I'm not going to advocate for people being bullied at their place of employment. So it's a really thin line here. That being said, I think I'm really interested to see how those two gel. I think we're gonna finish off the show. We are gonna, like I said, we're gonna talk to Rachel and Russ from Locked On Flyers about this probably in the next week or so, and kind of get a more detailed picture on who Ivan Provorov is as a player. But I did text Rachel, who's wonderful, about him. So we'll wrap up with her comments. And I was like, okay, listen. Obviously, we don't like him, but what is he like on the ice? And so Rachel says he's been lethargic defensively, making mistakes on coverage. He can be effective offensively, and he's a pretty good power play guy when it is a 3 forward, 2 defenseman scheme. She's not sure what he's going to look like anywhere else because he's pretty clearly been unhappy in Philadelphia and wanting to be somewhere else. He's in the best shape of most NHL players, so he can handle the big minutes, but do you want him out there for all those minutes? Maybe not. So I think that the key here is manage his minutes. If he is a second pairing guy playing, 20 minutes a night, that feels fine to me. What I don't want is for him to be playing, 26 minutes a night, because that feels like, again, we're just going to get back into a player that is effective playing limited minutes, plays way too many minutes, gets lambasted for it. I think he can be effective on this team. And like I said, I will be really interested to see how he gels with Babcock. But yeah, I just, like you said, I just don't feel good about having him on my team. And that's how it is, and my feelings on that are not going to change anytime soon. And I don't know that there are going to be people are going to want to debate this. And I don't know that you can debate my feelings about this. I'm not going to change my mind on how I feel about him as a person. I'm willing to change my mind on how I feel about him as a player, but
it doesn't even make sense why we brought him in as a player, Jay, because he's an offensive-minded defenseman, and we have plenty of those.
Right.
We have a lot of those already. Jake Bean, Adam Boquist, Zach Werenski. We need some better pure defensemen, stay-at-home defensemen. We need Vladislav Gavrikovs. We need David Savards. We need Seth Joneses. We need those guys. We don't need these guys that are known for being offensive defensemen that can't even outscore Tony DeAngelo. That's not what we need, and that's what Jarmo has done for us. Jarmo, you are seriously, you have a problem.
He's on very thin ice for me at the minute. And again,
he's addicted to making trades, and he needs to stop.
We were going to do a show, not this week, I think, but next week, maybe looking at Jarmo Kekalainen's kind of tenure as GM over the past kind of 5 years. And I think he just got knocked down a significant amount of percentage points for this move. So we'll kind of go back to that. I think we're going to wrap it there. Otherwise, we will just end up yelling about how much we hate this trade for the next 4 hours. And I do have to go to my friend's son's Little League game. because I guess I just watch baseball now.
You're a baseball guy, yeah.
This is
we've all known that.
Yeah. Noted baseball fan, Jay Foster. That's going to be it for us here at Locked On Blue Jackets. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFRSTER. You can find the podcast. You can find Hayden over at HaydenH971 on Twitter. You can find the podcast at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email us at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. I think we're going to expand that mailbag that we were talking about to questions on Provorov as well as Mike Babcock. So if you have questions about that, send them in. And thank you for listening. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms. We're on YouTube. We are on Sirius XM. And we'll be back tomorrow, I believe, to talk all about Yegor Chinakov, who we have been saying that we're going to talk about for like a week now. And then the Blue Jackets keep breaking news. So, but tomorrow, we're going to do it. We're going to talk about Yegor Chinakov. And we're going to have fun with it. So that's going to be tomorrow's episode. Thank you once again for listening. And until then, make sure you stay locked on.